Dude, Young is like mechanically like absolutely insane. We trialed him for TI. He was absolutely insane. Like he's like a mechanics gamer. So we're seeing like, bring it back double shield versus, ball tracer stuff. Pretty normal. I think in general, like it's always super important to have a tracer. Like it just really, really, really important. Like in attack defense, I think it's just a staple. If you're attacking and the enemy team has like ball tracer and you're running like a double shield like Orisa, Sigma, like Hanzo, Widow, and you don't have a tracer to deal with that ball tracer or like soft pressure them, I don't think it's gonna go very well. Having the tracer to threat is just so strong. He like knows where the Widow is. Ball just forcing cart. They're wondering where the tracer is. Comes over here and scouts. Messes up his mines. So this is a really interesting. So chat, why do you think the Sigma's playing over here? Why isn't the Orisa playing here? Why is the Sigma playing here? See if anyone knows. There's like quite a few reasons. There's quite a few reasons why. To poke, yeah, to poke. Sig more sustain. Well, Sigma can sustain more at distance, right? Like Sigma, so you've got the poke, which is like you're absolutely correct, right? Like you're absolutely right? Number one poke. But the biggest thing is like Sigma can like hold space really well at distance. Because you've got the shield, right? Plus you have grasp. In a brawl setting, Sigma sucks, right? Whereas Orisa holds space really well in a brawl. Orisa holds space really bad in like terms of like, a range because shield just gets blown up instantly. Whereas Sigma, shield plus, grasp, and then you take the armor, you can use that as a shield, plus you have a corner, right? So if you look at the enemy team, pretty much like a lot of what they have, right, is like range damage. The biggest thing they should be scared of, right, is the ball sort of tracer, like booping him in and slamming him, which makes it a little risky. But early fight it's fine. And like Sigma sure flanks better, and like if he gets pushed, he can maybe back off and like play like over here, which is a bit awkward. Maybe he makes this rotation and plays over here, and then off angles from here while the team's there. Like it's just again a little awkward rotation, but he can maybe back up here. So again, it's a little risky. It's a little risky, right? Like I care because the ball, right? But as long as he's watching that ball and like watching Kara getting booped in, should be fine. Like so, you see that ball like going around, right? Yeah, now you notice how he immediately backed up, right? The ball went back. He immediately realized that, hey, that ball is behind now, right? Like the enemy team went a proper rotation to get around me. I need to back up because if I stay up here, I'm just gonna get booped and I'm gonna get out of position. So now he starts backing up, right? He goes for a slide off angle here. Orisa's playing the other side. He's playing this side. Ball's 1 HP. Discorded, right? So obviously, Zen's looking at the ball. I have a feeling Tracer's also looking at the ball, right? Bap might be sort of looking at it while trying to help the Orisa. You see the Bap Zen playing far back here. Tracer somewhere, like Widow's here. Tracer died. Nyang got one. We all got the Zen. What I find that was a pretty nice shot. What I find like interesting is like before the meta used to be like let's take the high ground and like let's push from there, right? But the fact of the matter is because like one team is running like double shield, right? And this team is not running double shield, these guys like taking high ground doesn't really mean anything because these guys have two shields, so essentially like they're just gonna live. Right, so these guys need to get value out of like angles and sort of displacement, and like if that ball doesn't essentially get value, right, then you're just sort of screwed. And if you notice how far like the Bab Zen were playing, they're playing really far away, so that ball has to commit a lot. And when you're committing, right, or like you're rotating, you're doing a lot in open space, which then means you're gonna get discorded, right? Like Bap does decent damage, Tracer can pressure you, you can get halted by the Orisa, you can get rocked, so you take a lot of damage. So like it's sort of rough, like how Team C's like backline is positioning, it makes it really hard for like TDI to do anything. And the thing to think about now, if you can't go for the backline, right, who do you go for? Well, Widow is also in Narnia, Tracer you can't go for, so the only person you could really go for is Sigma, because Orisa's got Fortify, right? So you could go for actually the front line, like with the ball play, and try and boop them into your team. and then sort of like use that as an advantage in sort of mini brawl. Granted, that may or may not work because these guys are still going to back them up, but I think that's something important to think, you know.
Greetings.
Yegor Shelf, thanks to follow. Solventic, thanks to follow. Because they need. Wait, what patch is this? Why Zen Bap instead of Brig Bap? Well, they're playing really slow here, and they're playing really spammy. Also, Half is pretty much a Zen player. I don't actually think it's because they need the Discord or they need the Harmony Orb. I think it's actually more of a, what do you call it, a tempo pick, and also more of a comfort pick. You see, we've seen Half a lot on Zen. I think he just wants to play it. I think they'd actually like verse Brawl. Maybe they would die verse Brawl without Discord. I could see it. But honestly, not gonna lie, I don't think someone would play Brawl on this map on attack. I think it'd be pretty rough because you'd already have you'd have 3 angles off the bat, and I think someone would just swap to ball and they just lose. I don't even know. I'm just going like through like stuff. It's literally this here. There it is. One. But yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's NA, right? Like, sure. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, if they go ball tracer, you know, Sombra, right? They'd make the back line like it'd be really hard for the back line. But the thing I'm gonna keep bringing up, right, is for them to go that, right? What changes do you think CC would do to deal with like the fact that these guys are on ball, tracer, Sombra? There are some very easy changes that these guys make so that this comp doesn't get any value.
Greetings.
What is called like playstyle changes or adaptations. What are the changes, chat? You guys tell me. There's like 2 that are like super obvious, hopefully. Mislit, thanks to follow. 2 should be like really, really, really obvious. Like ask yourself if you are playing, you know, if you're playing Tracer, if you're playing Widow, if you're playing Bap, playing Zen, if you see that, how would you position? Play fast or not let them set up? I don't think that's really possible when they have that many mobile people and you have no speed. You only have 1 mobile person, technically 2 if you call, well, 3 if you call like Widow and Bap mobile. Like yes, they have verticality, but they're not like mobile. You think split 3-3? Sure. The question is, if you saw the enemy team going ball, Sombra, Tracer to counter Team CC's comp, what playstyle adaptations would you make, positioning wise? You could hold closer. If you hold closer, doesn't it just make it easier for the ball, Tracer, Sombra just to get on you really fast and dive, right? I already reviewed Riskaya. You can look in my previous things. I already reviewed it. We're on. This is part 2. I should have probably put that in my Twitter post. Bunker, they don't have enough damage. Close, but that's not nearly as specific as enough, or like enough detailed, like in terms of people's roles and how they play into the macro. Play with cover again, sure, but not specific enough. High grounds and closed spaces, that's better, yeah. Like in closed spaces with corners, that's still better, that's better. Brig, you could swap to Brig, right, if they do that, but you're in a neutral fight, and one of the biggest and most important things, in my opinion, in Overwatch is understanding, hey, we're on defense first point, and we can't swap. How do we take this fight, even though we're at a disadvantage? Sure, there are cool strats you can do where you can Sombra and like see what they are and then like counter swap, but, you know. Brig, slow, corner side room, shut down ball engagement, tracer, Sombra engage. Yeah, so you're pretty close. Again, you guys are sort of missing what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is that these guys need to play really far distance to make it really hard for, you know, the ball, Tracer, Sombra to sort of enclose space. Tracer plays more in lanes to support these guys. to be able to force the ball tracer out. Widow plays an off angle because Widow's completely uncontested now because they don't have a Widow. So your Widow can literally do whatever you want, right? Like Widow body shot on like a discorded ball is actually really strong, right? Only thing you're really scared of is maybe the Zen, maybe. So your Widow should be at an angle where your Widow's covering another lane, which your Tracer isn't. So now you're between your Widow and your Tracer, you're covering both lanes. The ball Tracer, Sombra aren't able to get in. Only the Sombra could really get in. Then you basically scout based off, you know, different lanes and stuff where the Sombra would come from. Your Sigma, your Orisa Sigma hold space really aggressively because essentially if they're dedicating these three people, right, to hold like to make plays, right, then essentially their core is this, which is like sort of weak to some extent, right? So your core can easily soft hold this, and you soft hold this till you force out the ball, and when you force out the ball, then your frontal resources will push forward, right? So essentially these guys, like in a sense, should just easily be able to hold against that. So yeah. Again, like when I mean playstyle changes and stuff, like I always think about like micro into macro. The macro is like really easy. Like macro is like, okay, yeah, we need a position maybe further back. We need to like make sure that, you know, we need to realize that they're sending so many resources like ball tracer, Sombra on our backline, right? And we need to have our backline live, play, you know, corners, play enclosed areas. You know, our front line should win now because they're putting so many resources into their flankers. And that means our front line is stronger than theirs. But then it's like, okay, what are these guys' role, and how did these guys' roles shift, right? How did these guys' roles shift too? Do their, you know, Harmony Orb priority changes? Well, Harmony Orb is definitely going to go to the Tracer, 100%, right? Better be healing the tanks a little bit, but also 100% shooting the ball in the Sombra. Yes, exactly. So DPS covers TDI's lanes that can't even reach the backline. Yes, exactly. And you have to realize, like, a Tracer, like, will have to use blinks to, like, rotate to set up. A Tracer won't be able just to, like, 1 blink, 2 blink, 3 blink all the way in, because then Tracer won't be able to do anything. He'll be forced to recall instantly. So what Tracer will have to do now, is Tracer will have to go to a staging area, what I like to call, like, a point, like, B, sort of, right? Like, or point C, sort of. I call it point B. So, like, before it'd be, like, point A to point B, right? Whoops, point A to point B, but now Tracer's gonna have to go from point A to, like, some point B that's, like, in the, like, close area, like, that's close to point. I'm gonna call it point C, make it easier for you guys. One second, let me just erase all this. So like, this is point A where Tracer would play. This is point C, the destination. Okay. Now Tracer can't do this anymore because it's gonna use too many blinks and it's too far away, and you'll get forced out. So Tracer's gonna have to essentially like go like somewhere behind and like stage. And that area wherever it is, point B, is like gonna be very close to point C where the backline is. So that'll like take roughly 1 blink, which is like good and all, right? But like what you have to realize now is that Tracer's like obviously behind, and it's like really easy to like sort of scout and deal with that. And your Tracer can sort of just have Harmony Orb and do whatever. The biggest thing you do need to care though is you never want to have your Tracer go take a one-on-one with the ball or Tracer, because especially if you don't know where their Sombra is. Because what could happen is your Tracer could go get baited to maybe on second point to go like, you know, pressure their Tracer, but all of a sudden the Sombra isn't there and he gets like, it turns uninvisible and then like hacks Innovation, and then Innovation's like, crap, I just got 2v1 baited, right? So like Innovation has to be like really smart about understanding where their Sombra is and understanding what his limits are, because if he doesn't know where their Sombra is, he can just get baited really hard. But yeah. This at like their ball just sort of went in, right? Can't do too much about him. Now he's behind, right? Now it's like, okay, where's this ball behind? Everyone to watch this, okay? You can see him. You can see him like right over there. Notice Tracer's not marking the ball right now. Tracer's looking to pressure the backline. Orisa's looking at him. Immediately notice where the Zen went. I think that's a Zen. That might be Nyang. That is Nyang. That's fine too, right? But like, what I'd say is, where is their backline? Their backline should have rotated. No, they're still there. Interesting. So the backline's still there, but Nyang sort of rotated to another position. I think that's fine, but risky. Yeah, there you go. That's exactly what I was worried about. Because they needed to like rotate and like handle that better, right? Like the Tracer's like not peeling, which means the Tracer is looking to trade backlines here. And it's insane. It's like much harder to trade backlines in this type of backline versus this type of backline, right? Like it's gonna be easier for the ball Tracer to kill this versus your Tracer trying to go into a Brig Zen without like a ball. And he's got pulse bomb, so like maybe you get a pulse hit, right? But my thing then is like, okay, if you're gonna like the ball's coming behind, right, and your Tracer's not gonna peel, and your Widow's sort of not gonna like get in a position to help, sort of, which you're trying to do. You could maybe try and like rotate, or you could like try and back up, or like try and make a rotation over here. Problem is you're just scared of the Widow a little bit, but you could try and do something like that. I think it's just a little risky. I think the Widow should try peeling a bit more, which the Widow does, but it's like too late. I think the other thing is like they really shouldn't have let Becky like get like that, right? Like if we look at sort of how I'm pretty sure Becky got there. Look what happened. Becky blinked all the way over here, right? And this he stabilized in here, and then from here he went in. Right? Like this is like really smart Tracer play. Where, you know, you're not just triple blinking in on something, right? You're setting up somewhere and you're chilling for a second in like a point, you know, point B, right? A point B situation, and then you're going to point C in the end. And this is like my problem with like when I watch so many tracers on attack, and like NA tier 3, and like even I'd say like low trials, is like the core of the team. And I was talking to a few teams about this, and like a few tracer players when I was like watching some teams. The core of the team like imposes their will. Like the core will set essentially tempo like so fast that the tracer isn't able to get to point B, right? Like isn't able to essentially like get here, and then go in. Essentially the core will go to point C and force the tracer to do this, or the tracer's not even ready to do this, right? Which is just very suboptimal, so the tracer isn't getting a lot of value. What needs to happen is like there needs to be like very clean communication in terms of like tracer saying, okay, I'm setting up, stabilizing, I'm ready, right? Okay, let's go now, and then go. But like in NA, it's like rush, and like people just want to go, and like it's like chill, like, you know, you're not playing for your tracer at all. And like when I see that, it's like sort of frustrating, because I watch tracers POVs and I'm just like, wow, this guy like must feel like absolute dog shit, because like he can't do anything. But like as soon as you saw that tracer set up there, right, like that's when you know like their kill box is coming, and that's really scary. But obviously like Innovation saw that and he noticed it, and like again, I'll point this out, right? You can clearly see right here, this is a tracer thinking. Okay, this is a tracer thinking and like being smart, right? Tracer is a lot about thinking. When he turns here, he thinks, he's like, do I go peel? He has 3 blinks. He's literally thinking in his mind, do I go peel for my backline? I can go peel from my backline, or I can make this play. And his play is, I have pulse bomb, I can go in their backline and do that, and I'm hoping my backline lives, right? I'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, so like, you know, like just make sure you're thinking a lot, right? Like this is a very clear, like he's thought for a second, he's like, you know what? Nope, I'm gonna go for this play. And he looks to go for it, right? What's my opinion on getting Brig instead of Zen? So Bat Brig, I mean, if you're gonna run Orisa, I mean, it just really depends how you want to play, in my opinion. If you want to be more brawly, sure. If you want to play more slow, I would say this works. If you also play Bat Brig, right, you're not getting the Harmony Orb on Tracer, and I think Harmony Orb on Tracer is like really strong. Like really strong. Like it's one of the things, like I've had a talk with like a lot of Korean coaches, and it's like why they like just like they either like Zen Tracer or they like Ana Zarya. Like, and that's like the two like things, they're like, you know, these two things synergize so well and they feel so good. So if you running like, you know, that Bat Brig, you're really playing for that Brawl aspect. And you could do that if you want. And I think with Widow, yeah, you're right, it's a bit awkward. But you could do it. I just don't think it's very good. I'd prefer either playing slow or playing very fast, is the way I'd look at it. But like I said, this is like very like when you're playing this, it's like a little greedy. It's definitely greedy, right? Because like if the enemy goes ball, like you're sort of like vulnerable. So it's a greedy compish, but yeah. What's your opinion? And a Mercy Ash instead of a Brig on TDI? I mean honestly, into like this comp into that, yeah. Like I think a Mercy Ash would be like sort of smart. I don't think they need a Brig. Because it's not like these guys are gonna brawl. So I don't think the Brig makes a lot of sense. I mean, the Brig is really great for like holding space and like pushing forward and whatnot. But the thing I'm gonna say, right, is if they're gonna run this brig, then they need to brawl more. And like they need to get value out of this, like these ball hits, or they need to like again go for the tank hits. I rarely see like KR players like really going for tank hits, and I really think it's actually really good. But yeah. The plan bit. Can someone link the video? I just did it, but I can do it again. Here you go. But yeah. So like they just traded, right, and like innovation then just got like the value, right? It's like a bet though. It's like, you know, are we gonna be able to pull this off? And like he obviously did, so you know, worth. Yeah, I think they need to play really fast to get like value out of the fact that they have a Sigma Brig, because Sigma Brig's really strong, and Sigma Brig just sort of like can take its own off angle and essentially like push. Also, the concept of like Sigma Brig Zen together is like really strong, and also you can like split up too, and like Sigma Brig can go somewhere and Zen can stay somewhere else too. I like actually toyed around a lot with that when this was meta, like having Sigma Brig Zen play together, like all as a 3 unit, and then also having Sigma Brig and then Zen sort of split in a very safe off angle. We're like, and you set it up so the Sigma Brig sets tempo, and then your Zen's sort of free. The problem with that though is like your Brig and Zen need to constantly have LOS because enemy tracers could push you, right? Thank you so much.
About that Twitter competition.
Yeah, which one? The one that Raven did? Yeah, it'll happen. She'll Raven will put news on it. Oka, thank you very much for the 2 months. Appreciate it. Again, point B, right? Or yeah, like going behind. Notice the tracer's just mirroring it now. And like also if you think about like this mirror rate, it's a really nice mirror to do, and like, you know, your team has like a lot of like strong frontline ults and they don't like need anything. Like there are a lot of frontline ults here. So the only thing that really scares them actually is like a ball tracer like displacement. So like actually making this play to go deal with the ball is really smart because their frontline's fine. There's no way the enemy team is gonna be able to do anything, right? They have square after that, they have like flux after that, they have bongos. So it's like really hard for TDI to push in and win that frontline war unless like the enemy Widow gets a pick or something. You just need to abuse distance though, right? You need to abuse distance. I don't think a lot of people like really understand that you need to abuse distance. I also don't think a lot of tracer players play this well. Look at, again, like look what their tracer does. Comes right over here and then look where he goes. Goes straight on Young. Right? And like I want to point out like how he does this too. He's literally here and just sort of chilling, right? And like he's got Harmony Orb and he knows that like Orisa, like a few shots won't really do anything to him, so he's just sort of like chilling. And then he uses blinks when he needs to go on Young. There's the flux like I talked about, right? Like I said, by the time this is all happening, I mean he's pushing, like innovation's already back to pressure them. The enemy team uses trance, right? Now the bongo, pretty debatable bongo, right? But this is like the ebb and flow fight. If people don't know what ebb and flow is, like, you know, you can think about it like this. The enemy team, it's okay, so the fight started with square and Widow sites, right? The enemy team kited, then used their own Widow sites. Then now the TDI is like, okay, you know, the square is gone, Widow sites are gone, we can push back in. So now they're like, okay, it's time for us to push in. So then TDI starts walking forward, right? When they start walking forward, Huyal says, no, you don't. I'm going to flux you. TDI says, ha ha ha, you're fluxing me. I'm going to trance, right? Then TDI is like, okay, cool. We have trance. We can press W with the trance. Let's move forward. Team CC is like, you're going to try to push forward again on us. We're going to say no. I'm going to use bongos. It's a bad bongos, right? So it's just that it's the ebb and flow, right? If you see my ebb and flow video, it explains like all of this very well. The one thing I want to actually show and talk about, right, is like, when ebb and flow is happening, right, there's a lot of like smart things you can do as DPS and sort of as a team to sort of take angles and like abuse like open space, right? Like yes, your core or whatnot is sort of like pushing and pulling, but like, you know, there's obviously lanes and maps and stuff, and people want to, you know, abuse that. So you can see here, as soon as like this push and pull happens, like this really aggressive Widow play, like really aggro, right? The other question is like who's playing this lane over here? I can't even see, but who's playing there? And there's a flux, right? The ball goes on the Widow. He gets one. Innovation's pushing in. A rally. They're gonna like this is looking really strong, right, for TDI because that rally. But Team CC still has trance, right? I think one of the biggest things too is like this flux happens, right, and they don't trance this. If this flux happened, right, and actually like forced more than like, you know, if that forced trance here, it probably would have been GG's for Team CC right here, right? But like someone uses fort, right? It's only the Sigma BAP. They have lamp, right? So they're sort of careful about it. They rally. Again, like these really aggro, like space taking. They trance. They try and push back in. It's gonna be rough with that Widow setup though. It's a really aggressive like space, and like you can just see like the map control. Like that Widow literally just bounced and took like enemy team was like over here-ish, right? Widow takes over here. Enemy team got forced over here. Widow goes over here, forces back in there. It's like really aggressive space holding. Nah, KR isn't playing a lot of double shield. They're playing a lot of ball. KR is playing a lot of ball. Ball on most maps, and double bubble where double bubble's good, and then brawl where brawl's good, which is mainly Koth. A lot of people will actually play like some teams will play brawl on Havana and spawn holds. Just depends on the team. They hold really close. Like this is one of the things I think like teams need to learn how to do, and I think it's like a really good skill. And it's honestly really easy for like the people who have point control. And basically, like I think it's almost a fundamental. Maybe I'll make a video on it. But understanding that on second point, second fight, right? You can choke. Almost every map or most of the payload maps, you can choke really hard to the point where it makes it absolute AIDS for the attacking team to recontest, right? If you think about like you think about Eichenwald, right? If you hold really close, there's only 2 chokes in the window. If you think about Hollywood, there's technically 3 little doors you can get out of. If you think of Route 66, there is 3 you can get out as well. If you think of Dorado, if you take the high ground, right? There's only 3, technically 5, but you don't really count those. Oh no, 1, 2, 3, technically 4, right? But you don't really count all of them. So this concept of like, oh, we've got point control, let's put 1 on cart, let's actually choke them. Like, let's hard choke them. Let's make it super hard for them to walk out, and let's make them use resources. Let's force them to use all ultimate. Let's force them to use, you know, fortify. Let's force them to use, you know, like shift or something from Sigma. And like, I don't think like people like do this hard enough on attack. And I think the other thing that's really important is actually how the defensive team retakes. Like, how do you actually like retake into a choke? Because like that's not easy by any means, right? It's actually quite difficult. Obviously in this situation they have 2 mobile people, so it makes it a lot easier. And like in general, when you have chokes and stuff, you can obviously do rotations, you know, you can rotations, you can use ultimates, you can use sort of maybe CDs like Maywall to take space. But if you don't have a lot of those options, right, like actually getting a flanker and using a flanker to split focus helps a lot. But yeah. Yeah, so again, look Tracer, right? Holding the side of the lane, right? Core's pushing out. The enemy team can't just fully choke them anymore. They have to look somewhat at the Tracer, right? When they push out, you can't see it, but when they start going out, right? The Tracer pushes the Ashe, right? Kills the Ashe. And that's sort of how you're able to take space very easily with like when you have a Tracer or like a ball, because they're able to sort of split focus and get value. But yeah. And fight happens, Nyang dies, flux happens, quite a big flux. Okay. I think what makes Innovation such a good player, to be honest, is I don't think his mechanics are like absolutely insane. I think they're good, but I really think how he thinks about the game and how he's always and where he needs to be is like he's always like where he needs to be. Like I think his like thought process and his like absolute like play style and his understanding is like so good. I think that's what makes him a really good player. Like, I very rarely see this guy like out of position. He might be making like a risky play or something, but like he's very rarely like actually out of position. I think his mechanics could be better though. I think that's something that if he were to like, if he had like better mechanics, like just more pulse hits and like I think his pulse hits are around like 50%. It feels like if they were like around 70, I think he would just be like super owl tier. Like it would just be he'd be so good. Tanker, yeah, I think so. Follow. And like all they're doing is just playing lanes and holding space, and they used alts earlier. Enemy team didn't really have that many alts, so they won. Enemy team swaps to Lucia to try and touch, right? They play point, they kill point, they win. So TDI does the famous, you know, Brawl hold. They run orisa though, and I think that's really, I think it's like really risky. As someone who like used to do this hold like a shit ton, like who probably like brought it back to NA and brought it back in general. Problem with Orisa is like you're really vulnerable to angles. So if enemy team starts going ball tracer comp, like you can't really deal with it. If enemy team starts taking angles in general, you can't deal with it. And if you're gonna run like Ryan Orisa on this first point when there's 3 different chokes that come basically out like a 180-degree angle, you need to commit really hard because you don't really have anyone else to like soft deny other angles anymore. You could use like an Orisa shield if you wanted, but it's just sort of awkward in my opinion. I think D.Va is just so much better. It's also safer for later on. I think this is like Orisa Ryan's really good for like second point, but it's pretty rough. So Team CC goes ball comp. I'm assuming they send their ball tracer behind to try and displace. Yep, they do that. There's a displacement. Innovation has orb. Young dies. They don't get value. I think they swap here, if I remember. I watched a little bit of this. Yeah, they swap. So they get a Mei, which is a pretty smart choice. This is very interesting. Okay, tell me, chat, because I thought about this for a bit. Why did Team CC go this comp, and why is it good, and why can it be bad? They never drop food. I did this once. The Brig is good. Why? Why is Brig good? Why don't they need speed? I'm confused. Why do they need speed? They're just trying to play the hard brawl. Okay. Yeah, say it. See if you know. No speed, you don't need speed too. Okay. But there's still a problem. There's a very big problem. You're only thinking about one thing. Getting out of spawn rooms is a problem? Not necessarily. I mean, you don't. I mean, yeah, like speed would be like a little bit nice, but it's not the problem actually. Or wait, if anyone else wants to talk, I'll give it like 1 more second. I thought so. Play the Sig Brig instead of the D.Va Lucio because you get hard off angle, pressure the shield more. Wait, that's no, Nate. You definitely don't want to off angle with that comp. You can like soft off angle, like really soft, but you don't want a hard off angle. If you hard off angle, you just die. You 100%, you get sped on and just die. So the problem with this comp is it's only first fight. Literally running Brig, like, that also doesn't really make sense. Why would they engage on you? They have 2 shields. Why would they engage on you? They just anti-LOS you. Like, they don't need to do anything. They're on defense. But the literally, like, after this first point, right? The problem is they don't have Lucio, which then means they lose pretty much ebb and flow fights very, very easily, right? They 100% have LOS to hide from. They play right over there. They can sort of play this corner. They can only focus here. Enemy team has to come out. They have speed. They're fine. They can play literally in this corner right here. So yeah, and then like that corner, they can just hide in the side here, and then some people push here. It's fine. The other problem you have to realize, right, is this comp is super, super, super strong if you like play fast and really aggressive in a closed area, right? So if they do play like this and they hold really close, right, and the enemy team says, okay, cool, you know, we're holding some people here, and then they sort of like try and get out, there's no way they're gonna win that. Yes, a Brig helps sort of, but there's just no way. Because you know, Orisa shield is just gonna get so much value, right? Then they start maybe coming over here, right? And then these guys push and match, then it might get a bit more difficult, right? But the fact of the matter is these guys can sort of like play slow. That's the problem, right? The problem essentially is that like these guys can literally just spawn, like literally like hold really close in a really like smart area, and then make it very hard for these guys to rotate or do anything, right? But what happens is these guys actually let them out. Like TDI actually lets them out, and you'll see in a second. Like TDI lets them out, which then means like they're fine. And then the next follow-up thing, right, is after this fight, right after this first point, it's incredibly important to understand again that these guys still have a Brig, right? I'd actually swap off this Brig and get a Lucio unless you're really close to rally, because like you need to be able to kite, right? You have a Sigma, you need to be able to kite. So yeah. Thank you, Sody Pops, for the 19.
Greetings.
Let me know if that makes you understand what I'm saying, Nate. Rick, thanks to follow. So like this is a problem. Like the fact that this happened right now and this May's actually able to get out is a problem, because that shouldn't be able to happen. Because now they like when this happens, they don't need a Lucio anymore. As soon as this happens, the fact like Team TC doesn't need a Lucio, right? And now they can counter wall, they can live, right? And then they've got a Brig, right? They force lamp first. They're just gonna win. But if TDI literally like went like held like how I said they did, if they held right over here, right, walled off over here, then like it would be a very different story, because it'd be much more difficult. And the enemy team, like these guys don't have time to speed around and just rotate because they don't have a Lucio anymore. So they can't can't rotate. If they do hard off angles and stuff, doesn't matter as much. Why? Because like they could literally hold here, deny these guys, maybe send like 1 or 2 people, like they could send to like soft deny that if needed, but they'd still be fine. Selfless was doing this 4 years ago. I don't know if the Ryan didn't walk there. Just played with window. They won this fight. What? Okay, so you're telling me if TDI here doesn't push, they win? I don't know if I agree with that. I feel TDI 100% loses. Why would TDI win if they play slow into this comp? They 100% have to push. Like 100%. If they don't push, this Sigma gets insane value, this Brig gets insane value. Sure, they don't get Inspire, but that's not really like the biggest problem, right? Sigma's getting a lot of value. I guarantee you somehow the Brig's gonna get some Inspire at some point from a flail or something. There's no way the Brig's not gonna be able to get it from like a Sigma off angling, because these two will definitely pair together. And at the other point I'll also add to it, right, is like if they're not pushing, who does more poke? I'd say like this team does probably more poke. Yeah, you don't need the Inspire. You like literally like again, main healer when you're spamming, main healer when you're brawling. Like you just don't need it. They forced CC back and they bought another 5-10 seconds. I mean, sure, but again, my opinion, they like this is just wrong. Like how all of us, even if you look at the CDs, right? And like this Maywall is actually insanely smart. Why is this Maywall smart? This if you slow it down actually, and you sort of look at how TDI's comp plays, and how this Mei wall is used, this Mei wall is like very good. If you ever watch my stream, how does Orisa Ryan comp play? Like, what's like the basic combo you normally do when you're pushing? It's not halt fire strike. Yes, at a very fundamental, yes, it's halt fire strike. But the concept is Ryan walks up, right? You halt fire strike or halt cleave, right? And then you sort of play with the Orisa shield, and Ryan keeps swinging, right? But the problem here, right? The general concept is, you know, again, Ryan walks with Ryan's shield, right? Then, you know, the halt happens, you fire strike, you cleave, you do a bunch of damage. Orisa puts shield down for the Ryan to keep using, right? And then Ryan keeps going, and Ryan backs up, Orisa fortifies in front of Ryan. Ryan keeps swinging with like behind Orisa, right? And you get maximum like value. But the thing is, because this wall came up here, that nullified the halt and the shield, which now means Orisa doesn't have a shield, right? And now they're depending on Ryan's shield, which means Ryan can't swing anymore. Ryan has to shield here. So now because he has a shield here, right, it makes it even harder for TDI. Because they have no good CDs, because their whole engage is screwed. Like, this is why I was saying, like, TDI's comp plays very much for a frontal engage, and the engage has to be strong. And the fact that they let Team CC out is like a massive problem. Like a massive problem. So this wall is actually like a great wall. Right? And like they're committing and stuff, right? But like it's really rough. Like immediately you see the lamp, immediately you see stuff, immediately you see the gold, you see the Ryan like half HP. But at this point it's like, again, like luckily they've got window, sure. Right? Here, granted, I think they should have pushed a little bit harder, but I think the other thing to realize is innovation walled first. Hence, innovation will get walled first again. So if he goes too forward, what happens? He's gonna get walled off. Innovation was too wide. He kited the wrong way. And that was a mistake on innovation. Should have kited the other way, but yeah. And like, look how fast that dude builds Flux. It's followed by some innovation. Innovative positioning. But yeah, and they just win. And then Rally's just broken. But yeah. So that's like the logic and I would like the stuff behind that. It's like a very, like, I looked at this and I was like thinking about it for a bit. It was pretty cool. Yeah, and it like definitely took a lot of time off the clock, right? Like that's all purpose. And like right, I said, like this is where shit's scary if you think about it, right? Like you've got a Brig now, and they've got a Lucio, and that's like really scary, like really scary. You gotta immediately think like you've got to be more spam. You got to play like a very spam oriented way. I think they should have swapped Brig for sure. Like I really think they should have. I think, and I saw this and I was just like, why are you keeping the Brig? Why are you keeping the Brig? Like, look, the enemy team has so many ultimates, and you have no speed now. What are you gonna do? Like literally, what are you gonna do? Like they may ult, and that's great, and like they have an insane wall, but like it's so risky. And that's a great counter wall. And then again, like TDI's Brawl is like pretty annoying. Like the fact, in my opinion, honestly, the fact that like Team CC just didn't get rolled at the start of here, I think is pretty insane. Like I think it's like pretty insane. I think his Maelt is like quite good, but in practicality, like you go in, you save amp right for the Maelt, you amp past it, and you sort of just keep going. But I mean the Maelt's pretty strong at the angle. I think I have Bongo too, but I don't know. I think that Bongo could have been played in a better place. I also think the place they engaged at is a bit funky. I think they could have gone high ground or waited till they get into more open space instead of letting them be in a corner. Yeah, I think that Bongo is quite debatable. Quite debatable. And then like Aula following up stuff like they over ulted, but yeah. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Nice. And like this again, like speed, right? Power of speed. Just immediately just like blow someone up. I don't know. I feel like the one thing I'd say, like in NA, like if an NA Brawl team were to like, or a Western Owl team, right, would make this play here, it would be very different. Like this whole Brawl execution would be very different in my opinion. Like the beat would have happened, right? But like they sort of like stop, right, and they sort of turn around all this stuff. This wouldn't happen. Like all this stopping and turning wouldn't happen. They would just full commit, and like it might have given them more value. Like KR is like so ebb and flowy, right? That like, you know, it's great and all, but in this situation, I feel if you play ebb and flow, you're just gonna lose. like you can't like play slow at that end after you get a kill and like play to stabilize, because you're just gonna lose the late fight because the ending team has just so many ultimates. Oh wow. Oh wait, no, okay, I thought it was someone else. Okay, I thought someone followed me, but let's keep going. But yeah. Yeah.
그래서 지금 눈보라도 남아 있는 상태고 어쨌든 비비기에는 조합이 좀 무거워가지고 야슬아슬하거든요. 들어오다가 한쪽은 빙벽에 막히고 한쪽은 눈보라가.
Okay, so is that the bullet? That is the bullet. That's funny. So going in, right? They're recontesting. Still no Lucio, and it seems CC uses May ult. High Noon to take space. Pretty good High Noon. May ult after. Sure. Do they shatter too? No, they shattered. Yeah, they shattered the last fight. Okay. So May Noon. A May ult High Noon. I don't think they needed both to take space. Probably only one, but that's a bit aggressive. This is like a crazy fight. And you just barely get it. But because they have like that, because they're Orion, like look at the HP of the Orion, how much the Orion was able to do in this mid fight. Right, like the Mayout was really big, right? Did a lot. Lamp was actually quite huge. They managed to kill the enemy Ryan, so the Ryan's just free. And the Ryan just goes forward and just does whatever he wants. Because there's like barely any threat to him, right? Like what threatens the Ryan? The May, but the May like died because of the shatter, if I remember correctly, and the enemy Ryan was dead too. So like the Ryan could literally do whatever he wanted. You just played DPS Ryan, just played swing mode. Okay. No ultimates. Let's see if they choke out. Looks like they soft choke out, right? If you see like a Sigma holding this far, like you can see they're playing for angles. If someone's over here, someone's over here, you're actually wanting them to go in open space and rotate, so then you can shoot them from multiple angles. They're not playing to choke out, they're playing to pressure more rotations. Okay, the window, the wall happens. Enemy team kites. Okay. Wall up. Almost died. This is like a little messy, to be honest. It's very interesting how Kreese play. I really like seeing a lot of different Kreese play, like how they turn, when they turn, why they turn. No, I mean it's good awareness. I just don't think sometimes they're turning. They need to. I think they could like be more frontal aggressive, but yeah, it's good to be safe. But yeah, we go to next map. Dude, Blizzard World was something. This was definitely something. So again, a lot of people are like, you know, Brawl. Like, so here you'll see TDI play Brawl, and Team CC will play Ball Comp. So this will be like a very cool thing to watch if you're like a believer of Brawl or you're a believer of Ball Comp or whatever it is. This will like sort of show you at like a higher level. I honestly don't think like either of these teams like were like super good at either of the comps, but like it'll sort of show you. Robot, thanks for the follow. Enemy team rotates, little scary from Kree. Probably should have been in the team instead of like following.
일단 과감하게 포기를 하고 내려온 팀 CC고요. 스펙트라 포지션이 되게 중요할 것 같은데요. 아무래도 라니맹메이는 디바를 제외하고 나머지는
Okay.
좀 힘들기 때문에 그렇죠. 스펙트라가 혼자
Enemy team rotates, right? Why is this rotation really good? Anyone? Anyone know why this rotation is very good? Let's see. If anyone's watched my Brawl versus Double Bubble or video, sort of not Double Bubble, but it still relates. Why is that rotation good? Can't take poke is like the obvious one. Yes, you're absolutely right on that. Sure, they can take high ground, but that's not the reason what I'm actually looking for. There's something specifically this rotation does, which is very strong. Avoid spam denies high ground. Yeah, so like you got avoid spam now, denies high ground. Ball can't take engages on them. So essentially you've got like, the corner, the LOS, the distance from angles, and you've got good rotation options, right? You've got like all the four things, you really want. The biggest thing you also want is when you're playing sort of slow sometimes or forcing an objective, you want to be able to set up your backline, right? This rotation very cleanly sets up your backline. Like very cleanly.
지금 당장의 위치는 좀
And also does force enemy team to rotate.
실버코인의 역할이 굉장히 좀 클 것 같은데. 근데 견제는 좀 잘 들어가고 있습니다. 이게 실버코인이 직접
So they chill, they force the ball out, they freeze the ball,
정면을 그냥 비는 게 제일 좋아.
and they start going forward.
이게 빠진 거 확인했죠.
They force point, right?
일단 들어가고 있어요. 한 판을 먹었습니다.
Now what's the problem here? What's the mistake they made, guys? There's a very obvious mistake they made. I'm curious if anyone figured it out.
거점 압박은 일단 비는 게 제일 좋아 보이긴 합니다. 그리고 지금 빈벽 빠진 거
Kree's in the open, yeah.
거점 압박
I think their Kree's split, if that's what you're getting at. Also, can't fully see him. Where is he? Yeah, he's sort of split, but that's not the actual full mistake. So they're in the concept of, hey, let's force point, let's force them into us, and when they go into us, we'll brawl them and force a brawl, and we win the brawl. Why did they bunker? Bunker inside? Sure. Probably didn't maybe need a bunker. Yes, cutie, what is it? Fix my camera? What's wrong with my camera? It's tilted and annoying? Oh, fixed now? How is it tilted? Andrea, what's wrong with it? Oh, whatever. My girlfriend's losing it. The problem is that they're all together, right? Does the diva actually need to be stacked on the Rhine, guys? It is? Okay, 1 minute. Let's see here. I don't think it is. You guys are crazy. I think you're both crazy. But yeah, does the diva need to be stacked on Ryan? Let me ask you that. Chat, does the diva need to be stacked on Ryan? Oh, the back wall. Yeah, someone put that up like earlier today. I didn't put it up. That's y'all are crazy, man. I think it was like stuck on. Like it's probably gonna fall. I'm calling it right now, but whatever. Okay, but yeah, does the diva need to be stuck with Ryan, chat? What should diva be doing? I don't think it's. You guys are blind. It's not worse. I'm looking at it. It's good. Wait, you guys are fucking. Guys are awful. It's like fucking Velcro, and it like already came off. Oh, it's. Wait, what? Hung up by this. I think that's fine, and if you guys don't, too bad. I don't think it's tilted. But yeah, okay. But yeah, so diva, focus on the thing. Yes, diva should probably not be split, or should be split and probably looking to go on the Ash, right? Why don't you have mod? That's pretty funny. You lose ban when you time someone out. But yeah, so this diva is essentially feeding, right? And that's like a really big problem. They like did a really good job of forcing point and everything, but their diva should have split up, right? Like when you're going into a Sam comp, you want to make sure there's certain people that are like split to deal with enemy angles. And how that diva played was like not amazing. Now, what is really interesting, by the way, is like how this Ashe manages to live, okay? Like I wish I had a replay code, but like this Ashe did something like funky. I don't know what the Ashe did. The Ashe is right there, okay? Watch. Like I really think that Ashe should have probably died. Then, okay, then these guys push into the Ashe. Keep watching. Wait, keep watching, keep watching. And the Ashe manages to get away and go from the back area, right? And then come back up here. That's the fact that Ashe was able to rotate, bubbled, and like all that shit is like to me absolutely nuts. Like whether it got bubbled, whatever happened, right? Yeah, the bubble went to Bob. I think he got Harmony Orbs, or Pact, whatnot. But like the fact that he was able to make that rotation so smoothly and like avoid the engage is absolutely insane. Like when I saw that, I was just like, whoa, that was pretty nuts. Because like TDI should have killed him, in all honesty. Yeah, well, technically, like, Lucio can too, but, like, I'm not saying, like, even, like, not even saying kill, but, like, the Ashe should have, like, fallen down here, right? And the team should have followed up and killed him, at least here, if not here, right? Like, I don't know, it's just crazy to me that, like, that was able to happen. And then, like, again, you're constantly seeing these guys, like, fully stacked, right? And, like, they're not really denying, like, angles super well. So you're seeing, like, them just getting hard angled on. Yeah, Diva and Kree are stacking, and it is bad. Do not do this. This is very, very, very bad. This is like macro fundamental basics. Do not do this. You will lose. Your diva is essentially an alt farm if you do this. That's a really good slam. Like it's actually like really clean, right? Then they push in. Like that was just that. Like honestly, this engage was just honestly by someone was absolutely beautiful. Like really early while they're still in rotation. The mines placement. Oh, dude, this was just absolutely so nice. Right, and he just pressures. Notice like also like he uses E, right? He uses the fact that he's got his shield and pokes. Keeps going, right? It's just I saw this and I was like, that is such a clean kill box engage. And then the BM stagger. Chef's kiss, yeah. So like this fight or like the next fight is like the fight TDI wants to win, right? And like while Brawl is like not amazing, right? If you have a lot of ultimates and you use your ult as sort of enablers to take space, essentially it'll become very hard for like the enemy team to do much. I can't see the Brig. The Brig pushes in though. The Zen was up top. The Brig like dropped. The Brig went OTM, wait really? No way. He jumped off. Oh my god. The Brig just jumped off the map. Oh my god. Dude, what? The ball buys time here. That's actually pretty smart. They hold really early and they buy time. I was wondering why they engaged so close here. Because like if I were them, I'd force this to be last fight. And like not engage there. But I think they did that because they don't have a Brig. Now it's a lot harder. They're probably like the enemy team. They use what? Shatter, High Noon there? Okay. You can mines, play slow for mines, probably Bob to buy time. There's a Bob. You play mines mid fight. They get Kree. There's the mines. They rally to mirror their beat. And Brawl just loses. Rally very strong. They rallied and they had trance, by the way. He traded. Yeah, Brawl's pretty bad. Especially on second. Second, it's like absolutely awful. Third, I could see it. Like, third, I could see it, right? But, like, yeah. Defense, it's definitely doable, though. Defense, if you have a good first fight, I think it's really strong. Second point, I think it's also sort of strong if you play for spawns and chokes. So they get an echo, right? Let me charge my lap. I think before he dies. NA trials will definitely be interesting. I'll probably cover some of it. I don't really know how much I want to, though. We'll see. I want to, again, like I said, I'm going to be doing a lot more KR stuff with content. Sorta, yeah. Oh, you wanted me to dab? There's my dab, Tensa. Like, one of the biggest things all you need to do here, in all honesty, is just have your tracer go point. Like, I don't know what the ball's doing here, but literally just send your tracer to point. They send Lucio, they send whatever, right? And, like, that still makes your life loads easier. Like, whoever they send to point gives you an advantage. They send D.Va, great, Ryan's weaker. Send Mei, they don't have May wall choke, which is sort of dumb. Send Lucio, they don't have speed to, like, be able to kite and, like, splits and stuff. So, I don't know what the ball did here. He messed up a rollout or what, but he sort of just fed, to be honest. Force them back, they use wall. Pressuring BAP, trying to force lamp, right? It's pretty smart. Shows good target focus. Enemy team immediately goes, right? They go for the Zen who's in Narnia, kill the Zen. They go really fast too, and they leave someone behind. Who do they leave behind, chat? It's the D.Va. So they understand that D.Va should be used to hold point and like deal with angles, but they don't understand how to do that on attack. Very interesting. They know how to do it on defense, but yeah, Tensa joined Obey. And then the Echo legitimately feeds here. Like, I don't know what this Echo's doing, but you're absolutely feeding there. Like, there's no reason for how that Echo played. Like, that positioning is just terrible. And, like, it's super important, like, if you're playing Brawl, like Brawl, like, when you play this matchup, the first fight is, like, incredibly important. Because, like, whoever has point control, it matters a lot. For Brawl, point control matters, right? For, ball comp, ults matter. But, yeah. The box? What do you mean the box? I mean, even still, you shouldn't copy like that. Oh, this hurts, chat. Hurts. Oh. It's like Team BC always starts strong and they do something really dumb and just mess up. Oh, gotcha. I was like, what? That's a really good copy. They can brawl more. They push they force the enemy team to beat. Even if they don't win this fight, it's like a really good ultimate to like force a lot of stuff. Get Lucio. It's a good copy. That has a really well timed lamp, to be honest. Enemy team forces high noon. They kite. This fight's like really important. It's a pretty decent bomb. It's pretty decent DM. Okay, back up. So this is a fight where you'd expect like Team CC to probably win, right? They have grab, they have pulse, they have mines, right? Brawl pushes them, they mine on rotation, they bait them. So Team CC should technically win this, right? Let's see what happens. Innovation goes for flank, right? 4 HP, gets stunned, dies. By the way, that's like a second or third time he's died. And like, again, one of the biggest things I'm gonna keep saying is he could literally just go point and force point, and like that itself does something, right? But he's like going for these plays that I really don't think are needed. And then Ball dies to a Ryan pin. I will say like Becky's Maywalls are like pretty decent. I think they're really good for stabilization and stuff. I also like how they're like aggressively peeking with Ryan. Notice how like the Ryan's constantly peeking for the back line to constantly apply pressure, right? I talk about that a lot where like, you know, the enemy team doesn't have a shield, they don't have speed, right? So you need to constantly aggressively peek, try and get picks and stuff, which is they're doing like a really good job of that. I still think like TDI could speed more and be more aggressive, but yeah. And then obviously someone gets a pick on BAP here, and that's like really big. And then they beat here, and it's like really awkward too, because this beat happens, right? And they don't like push on it. Like this beat's just there to sort of stabilize. And that's like not really good. And then the enemy team comes back with all these ultimates, right? Because they have grab, echo ult and stuff, and yeah, they end up losing at the end here. There's a lot of fights that went to like these like really OT situations where Team CC ended up was able to clutch out, and like TDI just like messed up. If you actually look at this whole series, is actually like incredibly close. But yeah, so it's definitely like a really cool series. I highly suggest watching it if you haven't. Definitely shows a lot of like the meta, you know, Brawl, ball comp. Oh, Hyun's watching. Hi Hyun, and whatnot. And yeah, there's definitely a lot of mistakes that both teams made though, as I talked about. But that's it. What time is it? We could watch a bit more. What's giving me? I mean, yeah. I mean, there's definitely like some like absolute like just questionable plays with like how they ulted and stuff, right? Like right over here, like they have tempo and stuff, and like they sort of just back up. And I know that it's not here. It's here. Wall is really weird to some extent. But like right over here, right? I think it's like they may ulted right, and then they beat after. How they don't use the beat. Like it's like there's like some questionable things. Like I don't know that I was just like okay. Like they aggressively poke a lot and it's like really good, but like I think sometimes they need to understand that yes, it's aggressively poking is great, but you can actually press the W key on top of it. I really also think on attack they maybe should have been able to cap if they just didn't mess up the first fight. Like again, I keep saying like if you're playing these non-mirrors and stuff, like that first fight is just so crucial. Like it's so important. Like you need to have the macro down. Like you need to.